I would be thinking about you guys always recovering.
Yeah, that's what I, that's
Game controls. Here, there's app library and widgets on your home screen.
We're going off like you talking about covering national disasters. One that's going on right now is in California and Oregon with the wildfires. I'm seeing like a lot of pictures online. People posting. Some people posting from pictures from their phone, or someone even taking out their old cameras and using film to take pictures. But I want to focus more so on like just phones. Like, what is your thoughts on the current evolution of just phone cameras and how more and more people are becoming photographers just with their phones? Like, what are your thoughts on this? Because you do teach a mobile journalism class as well. So
gosh,
talk
you
to us.
think about it. When I first started teaching mobile journalism, it felt a little traitorous in a way to my industry and to my brothers and sisters of photojournalists, because photojournalism is in a tight spot right now. There are fewer photojournalists now than there were 10 years ago. There are fewer staff positions. When I was at the Herald Leader as an intern in the early 90s, there were 10 or 12 staff photographers. Now there's 2 maybe.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, so they've been devastated. They might have a video person now in addition to that. And the reason is because photography is easier now. Photography is easier in terms of, I'm not going to say photojournalism is easier now. Photography is easier now because we now have these devices that make things far easier to be able to take, it's just in your pocket now. Whereas before we had to have camera bag, multiple lenses, camera bag. We had to have a dark room. Now we don't need dark rooms, and you don't even need a laptop, frankly, anymore. You can just use your iPad or your phone to do these things. So it felt like I was turning on my industry when I start teaching writers how to take better pictures with their smartphones. But that's just where we are. I mean, we can't fight that. It's never going to go back. My philosophy on taking pictures with phones is that I don't really care what device it is. And I say this to my mobile students all the time, is that the camera doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's this stuff. It's the stuff that's behind your eyes that matters, and between your ears that matters more than anything. Is what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that power that you've got in your pocket? That's what matters more than anything. And so what I try to teach them is, everybody's a photographer now. Everybody thinks they're a photographer now. How do we separate ourselves as journalists from that group of people? If we're in a stadium and there's 20,000 people, there's 20,000 photographers there. How do we do better than that? Well, we can apply some fundamentals such as composition and light and changing perspective, and we can think about layering techniques or moments. Goodness, let's talk about moments and trying to capture these really important moments in people's lives. But the number one thing that I tell them above all else is to be somewhere important with your camera. That's really what matters, is be in front of something that's relevant, be in front of something interesting, and your pictures are going to be more interesting and they're going to be more relevant, no matter the technical side of it. So yeah, it's tough. Photos on one hand, the photojournalists are having a rougher time of it. On the other hand, photos are more valuable now than they have ever been. You think about social media feeds.
All I see is pictures.
They're beasts. They are hungry beasts. And so the demand for images is higher than it has ever been, which is great for photographers. But at the same time, there's very, very little monetary value in those pictures. I would challenge you, though, to go look at the difference between people who are taking pictures with their smartphones in San Francisco right now of that red dawn, they're calling it, that Blade Runner look, versus the photojournalists at the San Francisco Chronicle. And the side-by-side comparisons, there's no comparison. The photojournalists' pictures of that are just phenomenal. I mean, they are breathtaking.
Because they know what to do with the cameras.
They know exactly what they're doing with these cameras, and they know how to compose a picture, and they know where to go to be in the right place to take these pictures. I mean, it's just astounding what they're doing. So photojournalism does still matter. thankfully we do have a really talented photojournalists out there, just not nearly as many as we had. And I'm really glad to be able to see that we can see the professionals. Like Hillary Clinton today, or was it Barack Obama, or maybe both, but I know Barack Obama tweeted a set of pictures from San Francisco, and they were all from professionals, and they were just outstanding pictures. And they just can't be compared to just people walking around with their phones. Now it's interesting enough from the people with their phones because the subject matter is interesting. It's just crazy right now out there.
Yeah.
But the photojournalists, the trained photographers, man, they got it going. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. Because one thing I will say, like, from taking that class last semester, I actually got to know a little bit more about my iPhone camera. Because one of the reasons why I even got an iPhone to begin with was the camera itself. Like, I had an Android, the Galaxy, and all my friends used to get on me about having an Android camera. So once I got the iPhone, I was like, yeah, now my picture quality is better. But taking your class actually took my pictures to a whole nother level, because now I don't take pictures vertically. I take it horizontally. Like,
yeah, thank you. Especially video. Thank you.
It's way better. Like, I didn't realize that until I took your class. And it's like you said, it's not about what you have in your hand. It's about how you use it. So with the phone, like, even though you don't have like the most expensive camera, like, you can still get some great quality photos and video just by this, if you use the settings right and you like actually know what to do with the camera itself. As like when you showed us the movie that was completely shot on an iPhone camera, which I didn't even know existed. And at first I didn't even realize it was shot with that camera until you said something. And then going back and looking at it, I was like, oh, okay. Now I can kind of tell. But it just goes to show the magic that it was able to do with the iPhone itself. Because like I said, I didn't even know that it was shot with an iPhone itself.
Right. And that's a really important point to make. And I'm glad you said that. And it's something I try to make, that, you don't want to know what kind of camera something was shot with. If your readers are focused on and thinking about, oh, that's an iPhone or that's a mirrorless, if that's what they're talking about, then you failed, because they're talking about the wrong things. You want them to be talking about that crazy crap that's going on out there in San Francisco. That's nuts. Or, those floods are just so devastating. I feel for those people. Or, maybe I have a better understanding about how votes are counted now. That's what you want them to be talking about, not what kind of camera you use. And so that to me, what it boils down to. It just doesn't matter if it's a phone, if you can get the job done. Now, some things are really hard to do with the phone. You can't go shoot a traditional sporting event and get action shots with a phone. You can try, and some people have, and some people can get something, but you need frankly, you just need longer lenses and faster motor drives. It's just a fact of life.
Yeah, because Zoom can only go so far.
Yeah.
You can't get that close to one.
Yeah, there are limitations to these phones, but there is a lot of things you can do with these phones. If you, just use your noodle and use your feet to get close and, shoot things that are relevant and important. You can do it.
Now, do you think also with the current evolution of like phones having better camera technology, do you think camera tech altogether has gotten way better over the years?
Oh God, yes. Camera tech. So it's always evolving. It's like every 2 years you got to upgrade your camera. That's crazy. I still have my first camera, my first film cameras even.
Really?
They're probably, some of them are behind me in the cabinet back there.
Wow.
I don't know if you can see them. I'll lean back a little bit. There's some back in there. Some of my old cameras and lenses are back there. And comparing those cameras to, comparing them even just to this, it's really remarkable, the differences. But now we're looking at, like I had a mirrorless camera in class today. And then we're going to start talking about mirrorless cameras, which it's not super new technology, but it's really building steam right now. And it really is going to be the future of DSLRs is mirrorless. And those advances are just ridiculous, how fast they are. And it's really hard to keep up, frankly. It's hard for me to I could keep up when I was doing it full time. And I had cameras in my hands every day, and I knew what was coming, and I knew that, the next generation of the same camera that I had, and I knew what the improvements were going to be and how to handle that. But now anymore, it's just leapfrogging. It's happening so fast, especially with the mirrorless technology. I mean, I've not used many of the mirrorless cameras myself, like full time. Clearly I know how to handle one, but there's some things about them that I still don't really understand. But the Associated Press just announced this past few months that they're switching their entire professional photography staff over to Sony mirrorless cameras away from Canon.
Really?
Which is really saying something. That's a big statement right there. And one reason they're doing it, like the White House press corps is a good example, is that if you've ever listened to a press conference at the White House, when you can hear the camera shutters firing, and it just sounds like helicopters going off in the room. It's just so annoying and a distraction. And with the Sony cameras, they're silent. You don't hear the shutters going off. So that's one reason I think that they're doing that. The cameras are smaller and more compact, and they're quieter. But their capabilities are the same or better.
Do you see cameras kind of like all cameras kind of going in a direction? Like, where do you see the future of camera tech going?
I think it just depends on what you're trying to do with it. I think that a big part of the future will be mirrorless, because the mirrorless, like I said, they're smaller, they're more compact. The quality is as good or better, and they can shoot stills or video. So having those hybrid cameras are really helpful. But what's cinema going to be doing? Cinema's not, Hollywood filmmakers, and they're not going to be using those necessarily. They might be using them as secondary cameras or something like that, but their primary cameras are Canons and Sonys and Aries and these other really big things.
Yeah, have you been seeing them using, I know 4K is, well, I guess I could use past tense, was the big thing, because now they're coming out with stuff that's 8K.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be talking about it 'cause I used to work in the electronics department at Costco, and I was just talking, I'll talk to some members, and I would say, if you don't have, if you want to get this 4K TV, you better make sure you're going to have like some streaming services, because cable companies don't even have like 4K channels for the most part. And now there's 8K. Like, it's just, I actually haven't seen an 8K camera, but I can only imagine like it's being huge. And I haven't even seen what anything looks like. I'm actually going to get the new Xbox One that's going to have 8K technology. So hopefully I'll be
at what point is it like better than our eyeballs can even see? I don't even know the answer to that. I don't know. It is so hard to keep up. And you get a better camera, then you need a better monitor and a better TV, and then you need a better camera, and then you need a better monitor. I feel like it's kind of a conspiracy amongst all these people to make us keep buying all this new stuff.
It's all about money.
It is. But I'm telling you, I think I'm happy to see, 3 or 4 years ago, 4K was fairly new, and you didn't have much function for it. But man, I sure love looking at 4K now. What some people are doing, interestingly, with 4K and even N8K and 6K, is that they're shooting it at the highest resolution, and they're actually able to kind of they're cropping the image after the fact. So there's a lot of people that are doing interviews with an 8K camera. And they're only doing a one camera shoot on the interview, but then in the editing room, they can slice and dice it up, and it looks like a 3 camera interview because they can crop it, and they're not losing any resolution. As long as they're editing it like in 4K or 2K or something like that, you've got twice as many pixels as you need. So you could slice out half the picture and it still is 4K. Whatever. So it's kind of an interesting thing to think about, how people are doing that. The ways that they're using all those pixels.